In this video, I want to dive into two main topics. First, I'm sharing insights from chart analyst Dom. He's incredibly sharp and provides a detailed breakdown of several XRP-related factors, including market dominance and different XRP trading pairs. Trust me, you'll want to see this analysis. And honestly, if you're hoping for XRP's success, let me say up front, the data looks very promising for XRP holders. It's really encouraging. Next, there's a headline from CoinDesk that I couldn't ignore. So I'll be discussing part of their article as well. It's kind of amusing coming from them. Here's the headline from today. Is XRP recharting the 2017 Mega Bull run? Just think about that for a moment. XRP actually reached a new all-time high yesterday during Enterprise Discovery. This after years of CoinDesk pushing out negative articles, making their readers believe XRP would tumble out of the top 10 cryptocurrencies and sink to near worthlessness compared to Bitcoin. But the reality, XRP is absolutely outperforming Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin can't hold a candle to XRP when it comes to performance. Ever since the election, XRP has been outshining Bitcoin, and it's going to keep putting Bitcoin to shame. By the time this market cycle wraps up, there'll be no argument left. It'll be obvious. And those hardcore Bitcoin maximalists, if you think they're bitter now, just wait. They're going to be twice as bitter. It's going to be brutal for them. And honestly, I'm here for it. Watching that happen will genuinely bring me joy. It'll be music to my ears. These people live such bitter, miserable lives and are just unbearable. We'll say seeing XRP leave them fuming would honestly make me happy. So the fact that XRP is thriving and it's bothering them emotionally, I'm totally here for it. I don't mind one bit. But before we go any further, I want to make this crystal clear. I don't have any financial qualifications whatsoever. I'm not giving financial advice, and you definitely shouldn't make any investment decisions based on anything I say or write. All right, let's look at what chart analyst Dom posted last night. He pointed out that XRP has experienced significant net buying on Coinbase and Kraken over the past 36 hours. He noted that retail investors are clearly piling in, driven by what's called unit bias. Since XRP has a lower price, it seems more appealing psychologically. More coins for each dollar feels like a better deal. And honestly, that's a real phenomenon. I'm not sure exactly how much of an impact it has or how you'd even quantify it, but there's no doubt that XRP's lower price per coin gives the impression it's cheaper. Of course, what really matters is market cap when ranking assets. But that's not something most retail speculators pay attention to at first. Many simply don't grasp that concept initially. When you simply look at the price per coin, XRP appears cheaper, so you can pick up more units for your money. I suspect, at least to some extent, this encourages people to buy XRP over certain other cryptos. If your budget only allows you to grab a fraction of a Bitcoin, but you can scoop up thousands of XRP instead, chances are you'll lean toward XRP, and that really bothers the hardcore Bitcoin maximalists. They're jealous, so what do? They try to spin it as a negative. They'll say stuff like, oh, people only want XRP because it's cheap, and that kind of nonsense. But the truth is they're envious, and they've been going on about this for years. Some of them even admit it openly. Check out this article. It's from September 14th, 2021. Remember this one? It was published by CoinDesk entitled, Why Bitcoin Should Be Repriced in Sats and Why It Has a Divisibility Dilemma. Now, as a refresher, sats or satoshis are the smallest units of Bitcoin, since each Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million pieces. Every one of those tiny units is called a satoshi, or just sat for short. And Mike Novogratz, one of the most recognizable names in crypto, was saying even back then that we should start quoting Bitcoin prices in satoshis instead. His argument was that this would make Bitcoin seem more appealing to potential investors. Really, this just shows how envious some people are of XRP's current position, jealous simply because XRP's price looks more attractive due to where the decimal point sits. Here's a post from Mike Novogratz, one of the most prominent figures in the crypto space. He's a billionaire and the founder of Galaxy, a major crypto investment firm. Back in 2021, he said it was time to start quoting Bitcoin in Satoshis because too many people were telling him that Bitcoin seemed too expensive at $58,000. He even wondered which exchange would be the first to list prices in SEATS. Now, maybe that shift will happen someday, perhaps if Bitcoin's value climbs much higher. But honestly, I have no idea if that'll ever become reality, and I'm not going to try to predict it. The point I'm making is this: they're jealous. And it's easy to understand why. The overall market cap is what matters no matter how you slice it. But this whole debate is really just about the position of the decimal point. That's really all this is. They're envious. So they twist it into some negative, claiming XRP is pointless, no one should want it. But that's absurd. The reality is XRP has held a spot in the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap for its entire history. Only 3 coins have achieved that: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. That's not some coincidence. They can pretend it is all they want, but at the end of the day, they just sound foolish. Here's another post from Dom, shared yesterday afternoon at 1:14 p.m. Central Time on a Friday, of course. In his update titled XRP Detailed Analysis, he noted that while XRP reached a new all-time high in USD terms yesterday, there are still several charts we've been watching over the past year that haven't quite flashed full-on bull market signals yet. He describes these pairings like a launch checklist. The more boxes that get ticked, the stronger the trend becomes. The first one he pointed out is XRP Dominance, which you can see on your screen. When he posted this, XRP Dominance had climbed to 5.64%, meaning XRP accounts for 5.64% of the entire crypto market. A pretty impressive feat when you consider the sheer number of coins out there. It's great to see, and honestly, I think that number is headed even higher. So anyway, Dom goes on to say that he's been closely watching this chart ever since XRP first hit $3 earlier this year, and now we're right back at a major resistance level that's kept XRP down for over 2,200 days. Even though the XRP/USD chart is showing a clear breakout, the dominance chart hasn't broken through just yet. Dom points out that every time XRP Dominance has broken this resistance in the past, the price has doubled not long after. If history repeats itself and dominance breaks out successfully, we could be looking at a target range of around $7 to $10 for XRP, depending on what happens across the rest of the crypto market. Just think about that. If he's talking about a 2x move on the dominance chart, and it's currently at 5.64%, that would push XRP dominance above 11%. And if the overall crypto market cap stayed the same, but XRP's dominance doubled, that alone would imply XRP's price doubling. So we'd be looking at XRP around $7 simply from that shift in dominance. As I've mentioned before, and it's worth bringing up again whenever this topic comes up, there's a good reason why XRP price predictions can get wild in a hurry. Sure, right now we're talking about XRP dominance possibly doubling to around 11%, which would push the price close to $7. But imagine if at the same time, the entire crypto market cap also doubled. So instead of the asset class being worth around $3.8 trillion, what if it jumped to roughly $7.6 trillion? Just rough numbers here, but you get the idea. In that case, XRP wouldn't just hit $7. It could reach something closer to $14 simply from that combination of doubling dominance and the overall market growing. This is why XRP's price can escalate fast without needing outrageous percentage increases. And interestingly, many analysts I follow think 11% dominance is actually on the conservative side. They're talking more like 15% as a realistic target. If the market cap for this asset class roughly doubles, or perhaps even exceeds that, it could push XRP close to the $20 mark. Whether or not this will actually happen is uncertain, and this isn't a price prediction. I always acknowledge that I have no way of knowing where the price will go. I'm just observing like everyone else. However, this scenario isn't far-fetched. It's a possibility that could reasonably occur. Here's the next chart for the XRP/BTC pair. This is one we've been closely watching since 8 months ago when XRP first tried to break through. And now here we are again, testing the same 2,200 plus day resistance that's rejected XRP over 8 times. Just like the XRP Dominance chart, history shows that when this level is reclaimed, it's followed by an explosive move shortly after. It's no surprise considering it's been rejected so many times over the past 7 years. Once this level is cleared, the targets are already outlined, and I think this is a key moment to watch. I've got my alerts set and will keep you updated on any progress. Every time XRP tests a key level like this, it gets weaker and eventually it breaks. Sure, this has happened over years, but the idea that XRP isn't gearing up for something big, that just seems unrealistic. XRP is really just catching up for lost time. Its price was held back for years due to the SEC case. But take a look at this first breakout. See how quickly the momentum shifted? That was the bottom. And remember last year when XRP was at its lowest against Bitcoin, a lot of people were saying, oh, its price so low, it'll never be worth anything. Well, they couldn't have been more wrong. Sometimes people just don't get how this works, and that's okay. I've said it before, though, when XRP is underperforming against Bitcoin, it's often a huge opportunity. Historically, when XRP hits those low points, it tends to bounce back in a big way. This pattern has repeated itself cycle after cycle, and sure enough, it happened again, because history often has a way of repeating itself. It's not rocket science, really. After that, XRP moved sideways for a while, about 6 months in fact. And yes, XRP/USD also moved sideways during that time. But here's the exciting part. It's now gearing up for a breakout. Even if it's a bit behind XRP/USD, that doesn't matter, it's still on track. XRP isn't done proving its strength against Bitcoin, it's dominating, and there's more to come. XRP/ETH is definitely one to watch. A few months ago, I was closely tracking this pair as it was testing that massive 3,200-day zone. Unfortunately, it didn't quite break through and didn't gain much momentum after that. Looking at how Ethereum has been performing lately, this one might take even longer to play out compared to the previous two setups, but the idea still holds strong. Every time the price fully flips this zone, we've seen explosive moves follow. So while I'm keeping an eye on it, I'm watching it a bit more casually now. And as I've mentioned before, there's a good chance ETH could outperform XRP in the short term. Here on the chart, you can see XRP dropping against ETH. But honestly, I wouldn't worry too much about it. This typically means Ethereum is gaining value against the USD. And historically, that's been the start of alt season. When that happens, XRP usually catches up anyway. This has played out before, so it wouldn't be surprising if it happens again. History has a way of repeating itself, right? Oh, and let's not forget the XRP gold pair. That's another interesting piece of the puzzle. Check out this XRPXAU chart. I'm really into this one. Gold is a much tougher asset to price things against compared to the USD, which makes it super interesting. It gives a more accurate value representation and cuts out some of the inflation effects you see with USD pairs. Looking at the chart, XRP is still sitting below the zone that rejected it back in 2021. When you factor out inflation, XRP technically hasn't reached an all-time high in value yet. Think about all the money printing we've seen since 2018. It's wild. This chart is definitely staying on my radar, especially if we break through the current zone. I think it could pave the way for a real price discovery pump above $5. Oh, by the way, quick note. When it comes to inflation numbers, I didn't double check every detail, so take it with a grain of salt. Just something to keep in mind. Someone did an inflation adjustment and it turns out the all-time high isn't actually $3.35. After adjusting for inflation, it's closer to $4.30 or something like that. But here's the thing. When it comes to charting, that doesn't really matter. People tend to focus on those key price levels they're familiar with, not necessarily thinking about inflation or how much the dollar's value has changed over time. For example, we're talking about prices from the 2017 to 2018 era, and sure, the dollar's purchasing power has dropped quite a bit since then, but traders and analysts still react to those same levels because it's all about psychology. Those numbers hold significance even if inflation says otherwise. Just thought I'd throw that out there. It doesn't change how charts are analyzed or how the market moves. It's more of a mindset thing. People are paying attention to the numbers. They see what's happening. Everyone knows the buzz that happens when coins hit all-time highs. It grabs attention and fuels the narratives everywhere. Social media, family, friends, even mainstream media. Everyone's talking about it. But here's the thing. Most people aren't really thinking about how purchasing power has changed over time. The dollar's been losing value all along, but despite that, the numbers keep going up, and that's what people focus on. Oh, and before I wrap up, there's one more thing I wanted to quickly mention. This comes from CoinDesk, and it's exciting news for XRP fans. After years of ups and downs, people are starting to recognize that what's happening now feels a lot like 2017. Chart analysts have been pointing this out for a while, and I've been sharing their insights throughout this journey. And honestly, they might be right. XRP is gearing up for something big, something face-meltingly big. The title of the piece says it all. XRP recharting the 2017 Mega Bull run. So is it happening again? I think the answer is a big yes. The article highlights a classic saying from Mark Twain, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." That seems fitting here. It's not about exact replicas, but recurring patterns, and XRP is currently riding one of those waves. Early Friday, the payments-focused cryptocurrency hit an all-time high above $3.50, continuing its climb that started in November after breaking out of a multi-year symmetrical triangle. In simpler terms, the bull run is on, and XRP is leading the charge. Remember how I spent over a year talking about XRP being in that symmetrical triangle? Leading up to the breakout, I kept highlighting it, and even the analysts I follow were saying, this is the longest consolidation in history. Do you remember me mentioning that? During all that time, CoinDesk was constantly dragging XRP, publishing negative articles about it. But now that the breakout has actually happened, they're echoing exactly what I said would happen. Can you believe that? It's so frustrating to see. Honestly, it really gets to me, but hey, at least we saw it coming. Take a look at what's happening now. They're finally acknowledging it. After all this time, it's clear how things have unfolded just as expected. It's like, well, obviously that was the most likely outcome all along, but hey, better late than never, right? So here's the deal. Since 2018, XRP's price has been tightly coiled within a symmetrical triangle, kind of like a spring, just waiting to release its energy. Interestingly, this pattern looks a lot like what happened a decade ago. Back then, prices consolidated in a similar triangle for years, and when the energy finally released, it triggered that massive rally in 2017. Sound familiar? Now, here we are again, the start of the second pump in this cycle, and it looks like this one might be the final big move. We can join in for a bit, but it's pretty clear things are already in motion. Honestly, it's amusing to watch them reluctantly acknowledge the obvious truths. CoinDesk definitely has its fair share of Bitcoin maximalists. It's pretty hard to miss. Even if they're not all maximalists, it's pretty clear most of them aren't fans of XRP. Lately, though, they've had to write more positive things about it because, well, facts are facts, and it's tough to ignore reality. Still, you can tell they struggle with what I like to call XRP derangement syndrome. It's been giving me a good laugh. As far as I'm concerned, CoinDesk can take a step back and chill. It's not that serious. But hey, just a quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't make any buying or selling decisions based on what I say. That wouldn't be a great idea.